There we go.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Play.
This is a regular monthly meeting of the Princeton Historic Preservation Commission being held electronically via Zoom on December 19th, 2022 at 4 p.m. Pursuant to Section 13 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the time and place and agenda of this meeting has been noticed by transmitting a copy to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, the Times, the Trentonian, and by filing a copy with the clerk of Princeton, who has posted it to the municipal website, www.princetonnj.gov/meetings. Pursuant to Executive Order 107, due to the state of emergency in New Jersey regarding COVID-19, notice that the declared state of emergency, all regular and special meetings of the Princeton Historic Preservation Commission will be held electronically via Zoom. Such notices have been placed on the official bulletin board at the municipal complex and on the Princeton website and are to be maintained throughout the year. Okay. Elizabeth, do you want to do the roll?
Yes. Ms. Capizzoli?
I'm here.
Sure.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
can you let Leighton in?
Okay, hold on.
And I'm here.
Oh, you're here. Thank you.
I didn't hear my name. I'm here, obviously.
I didn't get that far yet.
Oh, okay.
It took me a long time to answer.
Okay,
Okay, got Leighton.
a deliberative sort.
Mr. Endersby?
I'm here too.
Ms. Satterfield? Mr. Shatskin?
Here,
Ms. Howard?
Here,
Ms. Lewandowski?
Here.
And Mr. Pyle?
Yeah.
I'm
I see
here,
it.
but I'm not on the screen yet.
Oh.
Okay.
Sorry. Didn't see you.
Here we are. Good to not see you all.
We know you're here, Tom. We can see your name.
Just a ghost drifting in and
Yeah.
out. Okay.
So, Elizabeth, do you have any announcements?
I just wanted to make two announcements that 25 Birch Ave and 250 Mercer Road did go before the Zoning Board of Adjustment last Wednesday, and they were both approved. The conditions that were recommended for Birch Ave were granted by the Zoning Board as far as minor details to be administratively reviewed. The items that we had recommended for 250, I think the Zoning Board felt that there was too much, there wasn't enough consensus, or it was confusing for them, and they felt that they didn't want to impose them coming back to HPC, and so they did not require it. But they approved the application as was.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Hi, Leighton. So
Hi, everybody.
hi. So we have
Hi.
some administrative matters. First of all, I think we can do this all together. We have the resolution for the 2023 schedule of meetings. And I just wanted to point out that the first two meetings, are a little different because January 16th is Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday holiday. So our meeting would be January 23rd. And then instead of the February 20th President's Day, our meeting would be February 27th. But then in March, we go back to our regular third Monday. So all the other Mondays are the third Mondays, except for the first two. So it seemed okay to me. Does anybody have any issues with that?
Live indeed.
Wait, I think Elric's talking, but I can't hear him.
He said he arrives the day before our January meeting, but he's gonna do his best.
Oh, okay, good, good. Okay, so we've got that. Then we have the notice of special meetings. Then we have the charges to subscribers for meeting notification. And I think we can do all of that together. So would someone like to move approval of those 3 items?
So moved.
Oh, thank you, David. Is there a second? I see Christine. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, the second item in administrative matters is appointment of the nominating committee. Does anyone want to be on the nominating committee? If not, who was on it last year?
Rita and David, no?
Good memory.
Is that true? I don't know. I didn't.
Yes,
Okay. Obviously, we never met.
Do you want to do it again?
Sure.
Sure, I mean,
Okay,
It's a task that's done and one and done.
that's right.
okay. So, so is there a motion what do we need? A motion to make David and Frida the nominating committee? Okay, so who wants to move that? Okay, Elric and Roger second. Okay, so, so it's been moved by Elric, seconded by Roger to make Frida and David the nominating committee. All in favor, say aye.
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 Do we
Anyone
vote or?
opposed? No, just aye. So,
Okay, I,
anyone opposed? Motion carried. Okay, good job, everyone. We have one resolution.
just one quick
Um,
question.
Yes.
Sorry. Is anybody going off the board who needs to be renominated or
two, I
anybody?
believe it's
Sorry.
David and Elric.
At this time, there are no anticipated changes.
Thank you.
You.
So, so there you go. We have one resolution, 220 John Street. This was the siding change. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I saw a typo I want to call out.
Oh,
please.
sure, Christine.
On the second page, second paragraph, 4th line at the very right, it says N and then there's a T by itself, and that should just be deleted.
Okay. Thank you, Christine.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair, is
Yeah.
it appropriate for me to,
You know, we're losing you, Elizabeth.
oh, is it appropriate for me to let the members know about Ron Berlin's comment? I know that we had talked about it just before, but I thought it'd be appropriate.
Yeah, if you want to
Bring it
bring
up.
that up, sure.
So he had contacted me today, was hoping to make a change. Because he felt that.
You're
You're really fading out.
Okay, how's this?
Better.
That he wanted it to be changed. Food that not only was it the cost of the installation, but also due to the recent discovery of the poor condition of the stucco. But as my message to him was, well, that actually came after the application came in and the proposal. So it was kind of a subsequent thing that happened right before the meeting. And it wasn't the reason that they actually had filled out and, proposed the application. It was really the cost. So I'm not sure that that should play into it. I just think that it was something that came right before the meeting.
I mean, in all honesty, I don't think it matters.
Right, I know, it's a minor thing. That's what I thought as well, that it's,
And I think if we tried to change it, it would just delay the approval, so I think we should just approve it.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I did bring it up to the commission.
Okay. All right, so given Christine's change, is there a motion to approve the resolution? Oh, I got Elric and I got Christine for a second. Oh, I got lots of seconds. So it's Elric moved to approve and Christine seconded. I guess we should do a vote.
Of course. Ms. Lewandowski,
Yes.
Mr. Pyle,
Yep.
Ms. Howard,
Yes.
Mr. Shatskin,
Yes,
Mr. Endersby,
Yes.
Mr. Shore,
Yes.
Ms. Capizoli.
Yes. All right, so we have approval of the resolution. And we only have 2 applications today, and both of these are going to the zoning board. Our first application is 338 Nassau Street, and if either Justin or Christine could bring over the applicants, that would be great.
I brought over Mr. Kennedy and Mr. King. Ryan, I do not see William Hamilton yet.
All right, well, let's, since Mr. King is here, and he knows all of the details, I suggest we just continue, and if the architect joins in, wonderful. If not, though, I don't think we'll miss him.
Okay, and Justin, if you can just keep an eye out for him. His name is William Hamilton. And as for those who had joined in early, am having problems with my microphone, so I'm going to be uncomfortably close to my screen. So I apologize.
You're coming in beautifully.
Let me also apologize. Mr. King has a conflict coming up in maybe about 20 minutes. So if he bows out, I don't want to, it would be more of an Irish exit. And I want to just pre-announce that he has that coming up. So.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Be safe. So Elizabeth, do you want to just, if you can, go over your report really briefly?
Sure. So I think that the commission saw that I had actually included the original report and the memo and the findings, just for the members who were not involved in the original approval, given some background info. But to go forward, this is 338 Nassau Street LLC, which filed a minor site plan application with variance, zoning board of adjustment, an application for historic preservation commission. Construct an enclosure with a roof for a generator. The site is identified as block 34.01, lot 32 on the Princeton tax map of the former Princeton Borough zoned RO. It is further identified as 388 Nassau Street. Property falls within the local and New Jersey state and national the Jugtown Historic District and is on the New Jersey National Register Upper Road, Lincoln Historic District. The property is located on the north side of Nassau Street, one property away from the intersection of Harrison Street. Properties west and south of the project site are residential, and to its immediate north are commercial. Property is designated in the Historic District Overlay Zone map as type 2.
Can I stop you just for a second, Elizabeth?
Yes.
So I'm sorry, David, you have your hand up. I just want to make sure.
I do, and it's kind of procedural here for those of us on the commission or anyone in the public. I'm not getting a lot of what Elizabeth is saying, and I don't know if it's appropriate for us to keep going that way. I don't know.
I can
if
put my
Justin-
headphones on.
Okay, let's try that and see if it works.
Okay, that's all I wanted to say.
Thanks.
I don't hear anybody.
Elbert, can you hear me?
Yeah, but I'm hearing you on the phone. It's been loud and clear for me.
Okay, so I'm gonna
Yes.
do my report this way, and then when I'm finished, I'm gonna take the earphones off so you can hear everyone. David, do you think I should start again? I didn't get that far, but I'm
You didn't
happy
get
to
that.
start again.
That
Okay.
might be appropriate. Yeah.
Okay, so it's 338 Nassau Street LLC has filed for a minor site plan application with variances to the zoning board of adjustment and an application for historic preservation plan review to the Historic Preservation Commission. And this is to construct an enclosure with a roof for a generator. The site is identified as block 34.01, lot 32 on the Princeton tax map in the former borough of the RO zone. It is further identified as 388 Nassau Street, and the property falls within the local and New Jersey State and National Register of Historic Places, Jugtown Historic District, and it is also on the New Jersey National Register of Historic Places as the Kings Highway, which is also known as Upper Road Lincoln Highway Historic District. The property is located on the north side of Nassau Street and one property away from the intersection of Harrison Street. The properties west and south of the project site are residential, and to its immediate north and east are commercial uses. The property is designated on Princeton's Historic Preservation Historic District Overlay Zoning Map as Type 2. And as mentioned, this is in the jurisdiction of the zoning board in which HPC serves as advisory to their board. HPC reviewed the original application on June 25th, 2018, and there was a memorandum issued by the chair of HPC to the zoning board on July 23rd, 2018. And then the subsequent approval by the zoning board on September 26th, 2018. And all of those are in your package. The applicant's approval included a partial rear building demolition and a 3,880 square foot addition to the existing building. The house was established as mixed use, joint occupancy building, including apartments, a new reconfigured parking lot in the rear yard, crash enclosure, HVAC, ground equipment, and new landscape. In 2021, the applicant came in for a modification to this approval to replace AC condensers and install a new generator with a walled enclosure. This was administratively approved by the HPC chair and myself, which again, that was attached. And that memorandum was dated September 17th, 2021. And this modification to their approval was approved by the Zoning Board of Adjustments. So this application is amendment to that approval, which had to do with really specifically the generator, because at that time it was a walled enclosure without a roof on it for the generator. And they're coming in to put a roof on it, which is now considered a structure. The site of the generator was approved for the northeast corner of the property, which also sat pretty much on the parking lot. Currently, the generator in the wall enclosure has not been installed. The north and south sides of the structure will be brick. The east and west walls will be brick and hardy plank, and the roof will be standing seam metal. The brick will have a red veneer and 2 rows of soldier course. Hardy plank will have 6-inch exposure with a smooth finish with a sailcloth finish, which is a light yellow color. 2 doors will be installed on the south wall facing the street. Louvers will be on the east wall, and 3 roof openings will be constructed on the east roof for air circulation. Louvers will also be painted the sailcloth to match the hardy plank siding. So the walled enclosure is considered an accessory structure, as mentioned, which requires a minimum 5-foot setback. The proposed setback has a 0 setback, therefore variance relief is required. This encroachment onto the adjacent property at 341 Nassau Street is for the new roof line. It should be noted that this property at 341 is also owned by the applicant of 338. Since the lots remain separate and not consolidated, I believe the zoning engineering report is advising that easement agreement be created for that, even though it is the same property owned. So just to go down to the comments, it is recommended the applicant consider simplifying the exterior material for the structure, including the roof material to minimize the tension to the structure. So I think because it's brick, it's solid, you know, it's actually right at the end of the driveway. I think that your attention is going to be drawn to that. And obviously we want the attention drawn more to the historic structure itself. The commission is asked to consider the visibility of the structure from Nassau Street and Harrison Street. And if there's any visible buffers that could be implemented. The applicant is asked to describe the condenser exhaust vent and what this looks like, such as size, material, and color. That information I was not able to find on the drawings. And the applicant is also asked if it's possible to find a different location for the structure. I know the approval is at this location, but because you're looking face onto it, perhaps it's available somewhere else at the other end of the parking lot. But I think that there are some concerns about the neighbor, which I think the applicant can address about whether it can or cannot be moved. The other two comments are, you know, we would expect all the new utilities to be underground. And if the applicant can address any sustainable measures implemented with this project. If the commission has any questions, that's all I have. And I'm going to
Okay,
take
thank
off my headphone.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. All right, I guess I'll turn it over to Ryan Kennedy, if you wanna comment or,
Madam
Absolutely.
Chair, I think that
Yes.
Mr. Endersby had a question unless.
sure.
The question, it's 388, and it's really 338. And then you
Excuse me.
said that the adjacent property was 341. I think all the odd numbered streets, numbers are
Did I
on
have the
south
numbers
side.
wrong?
And according to Connie's book here, with the photograph of that complex, it's 342. So anyway, just picking my nits here.
Thank you.
All right. Well, in
Also-
the end, let's make sure we get all the numbers right, okay? Yeah,
Julie,
Leighton.
Also in the body of the, of what Elizabeth was just reading, at the top, it identifies as 338 Nassau, but on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th line down, it's identified as 388 Nassau. That should be changed to 338 Nassau. At the very top of the Historic Preservation Officer's report.
I'll issue a revised report. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you, and I'll be brief here. Much appreciated to all of you for hearing us this afternoon, and good catches there. We had noticed those as well, but you guys beat us to the punch. I'm gonna just very quickly take you through a few things, and then we'll let Mr. King very quickly answer any other questions that you've got. As you all recall, this was a project that was approved a couple of different times for a drastic and quite expensive restoration that King Interests has done, 338 Nassau, the applicant at this property. Those renovations are all completed, and a site plan amendment was done about a year ago to allow for a generator enclosure in the area that's the arrow is being pointed at, and what we're proposing here today. During that zoning board hearing, some issues with noise, which were all resolved, but the long and short of it is that location was the preferred location, not just for the generator, but to also locate the air conditioning cooling chiller unit, which would have otherwise been on the side of the property adjacent to a residential property. And while that could have been done in a compliant way, the applicant wanted to kind of relocate it to be as far away as possible from the residential property to the left of this photo, and got approval for a more of a traditional fence style enclosure. We're here today to essentially revise that proposal to build a more pleasing looking and more sound attenuating enclosure with the materials that Ms. Kim noted. Every material, whether it's the hardy, whether it's the standing seam roof, or whether it's the mahogany or brick, those are materials that are found on the main building. We kind of clipped them here so you could see where they come from and relate to. We believe that while the photo we've shown here from Nassau Street is kind of the perfect storm of looking down the driveway, you really would have to be parked, frankly, or in the left turn lane, 3 cars from the light to ever be in that situation. It is quite narrow, and this was done with a fisheye lens, so you could kind of see the location, but only at a moment of shutter speeds. Essentially, if you're walking by, would you really see back there? We also believe that the mahogany and the brick will kind of blend in with the back building. A couple other notes. I think there was some. Perhaps our architect was a little inarticulate in one of his plans, showing this item here, which looks like a chimney or something protruding out. That's really just an artifact of the drawing. That to Elizabeth's comment, the condenser exhaust vent is an internal item. It doesn't actually protrude out through the ceiling like a chimney. So thankfully, that's really just a hole for venting. As I said, it was difficult to find this location. It was the previous approved, and I'm not going to say it in conjunction, but certainly the neighbors were there, and it was a elaborate discussion about the most appropriate and least impactful place for this equipment, why both the generator and then the chiller were relocated to this section. The plans do show it. We're certainly in agreement with underground utilities, likely already there and completed. I'd like to just, I know he has to run, yield to Mr. King for a few extra comments, and if the board has any questions.
Go ahead.
Is it okay for me to speak now?
Yes, Bill.
Absolutely.
Okay. So thank you very much for hearing us. I appreciate your time, and I won't take a lot of it. But the acoustical engineer that we hired had suggested that we use a wall around the units, which is a wall type which is used commonly on interstates to prevent sound from the highway entering existing neighborhoods or future neighborhoods. And quite frankly, after all the money that we spent in restoring this house, it looked like an alien spaceship landed in the vacuum. And I didn't particularly want anything like that to happen, because I think it would take away from the front house a lot. We spent a lot of time and a lot of money on the front house. And what we did is we tried to pick materials that would not only reflect the same materials that are on the front house for this back building. We tried to make it look like an old garage or carriage house. Obviously, there wouldn't have been either when this house was originally constructed. The carriage house as well, because this design of this house is common.
Do we lose him?
I think we may have lost him. Apologies. I'll do my best while he's reconnecting to point you guys to any questions. Here's Bill coming back now.
Okay. Sorry, we lost you, Bill.
So this is the technically challenged meeting, and I'll Bill, we got you back, and I'll just say for Elizabeth's, I thought that the headphones added were helpful when you put those back in, so much appreciated there.
Right.
So Bill, if we got you again, apologies when we got cut off.
Okay, so what I thought was, rather than have a big highway sound wall, we would try to make it look like either a carriage house or a garage. And obviously neither of those would have been built when the original structure was built. First, because they didn't have cars, and second, this particular design of a house was thought of as a Chevrolet versus a Cadillac. The Cadillac version has a much steeper roof with dormers because it was used for more room in the house. So I thought if we made it look like something like an old garage with, we'll have a mill shop make the doors so that they're opening doors, a pair of opening doors, so it looks like an old garage that was built like for my grandmother's house back in 1906. that it would make it look more appropriate to the site. We have a requirement because it's too close to the property line for a structure with flammable materials. So it has to be all non-flammable materials. We had special siding cut for the house, although you approved hardy plank, smooth hardy plank. We had a special Western hemlock that was cut to the butt width of the clapboard siding that's on that house. And unfortunately, the hemlock is flammable. So we're going to go back to the hardy plank, but make it the same yellow color. And the brick also is something that was specified by the acoustic engineer, as well as having acoustic blankets inside the structure. And because there are openings in the roof to allow the air movement and circulation for the equipment inside the building, those openings are on the Harrison Street side, but they're behind what is currently a prestigious hornbeam hedge of trees that separate the 341 site, I'm sorry, 342 site to the 338 site. We will come back before this board in the future for some modifications to 342, which will involve potentially connecting the two parking lots, which was a suggestion of, I think it was you, Elizabeth, originally, if we would explore that. We wrote a letter to the former owner who denied our request, but I think it's a great idea. So we're going to come back to you to talk about that in the future, but that's not part of this application. So we would like to build this structure sooner rather than later, and hopefully test the acoustics at the property lines again and make sure that they are below the new standards that have been adopted for our site in consideration of the neighbors' concerns. And we would like to do it as soon as possible.
All right, thank you. Elizabeth, you have your hand up?
Yeah, Mr. Kennedy, I have to thank you for that photograph that you had, which showed the view down the driveway, because what's great about that is that you have the brick building back, which is not on your property. And then, which I was actually not thrilled about the brick, but now I see that it seems like it might blend in because the brick is already there. So,
I think that was
I-
part of the thinking, and
retract that
perhaps
statement in my report.
yeah, thank you. And it's something that, when you're looking at two-dimensional plans, just doesn't really show with notes, but this kind of view between the dark mahogany and the brick, it'll largely get lost in that back building.
Yeah, I think so too. Christine, you have your hand up?
Yes, I have a question about the encroachment. I believe the encroachment caused by the roof is the little bit of the overhang there on the property line. And I'm just wondering, if you indeed have an encroachment, why not give an easement? If you both, if the same owner of the property, that an easement should be generated, because otherwise, if it should be sold separately, that would be a problem.
Yes, we will give a permanent easement from the 342 site. And unfortunately, I've got to leave, but thank you very much for taking the time to hear our application.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. King. Safe travels.
Thanks, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Sure.
And just to
So-
pick up on that, that was something that zoning thought as well. So it's going to be a condition. It came up kind of after their memo, but we're absolutely in agreement to do that. We control both properties, and it's really just the roof overhang, but there will be an easement permanently allowing that.
Okay, are there any other questions about the structure? Yeah, Elric.
I agree with Elizabeth that I'm skeptical about brick. And this is actually going to be seen from the other building. It makes more sense.
We're having a hard time hearing Elric.
Okay, I'll
Oh,
get how's that? Can you hear that?
Better?
Yeah, a little better.
Okay. My question is just.
Oh,
I-
not
I-
too much better.
I-
You
Right.
know,
You're using the speaker from his phone. You could put it next to your microphone.
I am, that's what I'm doing.
Try closer,
I'm-
closer to your mic on the headphone.
No, I don't have my headphone on. I'm holding it to my computer. I'm holding it in my hand. Close as I can
Okay,
get.
got it.
And I am too. Can you hear me now?
yeah,
Okay, just I think it's overly embellished and that's lovely.
Elra, can you turn off your microphone? I think it's the feedback on your computer.
It is off, I believe.
no-
Oh, maybe
no.
not. I hit it by mistake. There we go.
Sorry. That was inadvertent. It just seemed at first I call it wagon house or.
you know, Elric, we're missing all of this.
Is it possible that Elmer
really?
could,
Sorry. Okay, it's not, it's a minor, just a minor comment.
Okay. I wanted to, yeah, thank Ryan for bringing in the photo of that brick building behind, which is actually, pretty large and obtrusive. And, I feel like if it wasn't brick, it would stand out more. I mean, because that brick building is big, and so I see their point. If in other circumstances, I don't know, but for that particular situation, I'm kind of getting the materials thing. David, Frida, Christine, Roger, any comments?
Yeah, I agree with Elric, and I think Elizabeth's report that it's a little over embellished. And I wonder whether the standing seam roof is gonna kind of be a little shiny and show up. Maybe just an asphalt shingled roof would be fine. It's very visible from Harrison Street, although there's a storage unit between it and Harrison Street right now, a pods unit I think in the parking lot of what's the correct number? 442?
42.
Yeah. But yes, I mean, simple would work better. And but I don't recall if there's any landscaping anticipated. Because it's actually closer to Harrison Street than it is to Nassau Street, I believe.
So Elizabeth, what color is the roof again? The
It's a
standing seam
standing
roof?
seam metal.
But what, so
I don't think
it's,
it has a color, does it?
it's just the gray.
No, I'll, you guys can correct me with how to pronounce it, but it starts with a G,
Galvanized?
Oh, it's just galvanized.
Galvanoid.
Thank you, it's a brand name. And if you want, I could pull up the picture of what it looks like on the main building. I don't know if you'll see it much from the angle, but we do
Yeah,
have
if you could
a
pull
sample.
it up, that would be great,
One second here.
if you have it.
So
Can you hear
here-
me at all at this point?
Yes, we can hear you.
The two things I would like to see illuminated, now that you've got that up there, are the soldier forces and those hinges. They're embellishments that are really misplaced, I think, particularly the hinges. They're not traditional and they're intrusive in my mind. You want this building to fade into the background and not draw attention to itself. And I didn't see this on the drawings before. I didn't notice. The mahogany is going to be, it's natural wood, like what you see in that illustration. It's not painted.
Correct. It's the same material or to match the, this is the sample from the side door that's adjacent to it.
Is that true for the building? It's addressing the addition, or is that
Correct.
painted?
Correct. No, this is, in this upper left, if you see here, this is the side door into the building with that same material that we would be matching.
I say, I
So-
prefer to see it painted, but that's okay.
So that's the same materials. That would be that same roof material, that same
Correct.
door material, and then the same color for the siding.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Uh,
Roger, did,
question.
okay, Frida,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Is there any way to hide that structure behind the yellow building? It's right here to my right, so I just went and looked out my window and, I was looking today, there's a parking lot, which I think you're trying to preserve, but there is space back there, hidden behind the yellow building.
The generator seems to be there already, I believe.
Correct. So
There
about a
already?
year ago, the zoning board approved this location for the generator and chiller unit with a different, less, as Mr. King was kind of more artful in saying, less pleasing, traditional acoustic enclosure. So this location had previously been approved. It's just that he started seeing what the enclosure would look like and was unhappy and wanted to revisit it. And essentially what brings us back to the zoning board is that what was approved as a fence up to the property line, essentially for your trash enclosure style fencing. Once you went higher than that and made it look like an accessory structure, the setback requirements differ. So that's this has been the approved location for since the zoning board approval about a year and a half ago, and we would be reluctant to move, one, because it's already basically been run to there, but second, the idea was to keep it away from the residential neighbors, which are on the other side.
Yeah, so,
I'm-
and so the generator can produce quite a bit of noise, and the idea is that they want it to be as far from the neighbors as possible. Okay.
So can you clarify, you said something about constructing it like your regular, garbage enclosure and all of that. Can you explain that? Did you guys think about that and then scrap that idea?
Now that's right. I mean, that was what was originally talked about with the zoning board. It increasingly ratcheted up both in height and
Got it.
unpleasantness as the acoustic materials were ultimately spec'd out, and that's ultimately what we weren't pleased with visually.
Okay.
I see. So the big concern is the neighbors were upset about the noise and wanted it as far away as possible. Your acoustic engineer is telling you you gotta have like thicker walls and a roof. And so this is the solution. And you're next to a brick building.
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay. All right, David.
So I'm assuming the zoning board knows what it's doing, but is this not an emergency generator? It's not, it only runs like under certain conditions and not that often, presumably.
I agree with you. There was I'll just say delightful discussion and revisiting what the town's perhaps requirements and the state requirements even were for such equipment. You're correct. It is only test run, I want to say once a week, where the noise requirements actually don't apply when it's the emergency situation. Having said all of that, there was quite a bit of concern over multiple meetings about the issue. The applicant was very, I'm not going to use the word pleased, but really wanted to accommodate the residential neighbors. And though I'll say there's the generator, which was always to be at that location, but then there's also the air conditioning chiller units, which originally were going to be smaller and along the property line, but actually were relocated as far away from possible to them as well in the same enclosure as part of that discussion. So I'm squarely in your court that frankly, that was all I'm choosing my words carefully here, but as far as the town and state requirements, all well beyond what was necessary or required of the applicant. That ultimately is what the board went with a year or so ago.
So
Oh.
just in conclusion, then permanently visually, we have this, whereas it could have been worked out perhaps differently, but that ship has sailed.
As far as the location goes, that's what the board has approved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Disappointing, but okay, I understand.
Okay, thanks, David. Thanks, David. Thomas, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Sorry to be in the dark here because my camera's not working. Thank you for this presentation. Just to ask a naive question, is this building insulated for the noise? Is there a particular acoustic insulation inside that will mute it further? My concern is, I appreciate the concern for the residents, and emergency generators are loud, and if they go off in the middle of the night, that does wake up neighbors.
So the short answer is a combination of materials, yes, and that we've already started the testing with the acoustic engineers, with even testing it without these locations. So the baseline tests have been done, and I'm paraphrasing the applicant, but a lot of expense and thought has gone into those materials. And the short answer is yes. There's a particularly I'm being naive in saying advanced, but a lot of design and expense went into the acoustic
Muffling?
pieces of yeah.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Wow. Okay, Elizabeth, you have your hand up?
Oh, yes. The question for Mr. Kennedy is,
Hold on, we can't hear you.
the question I have for Mr. Kennedy is the standing seam metal roof. Besides the fact that it's the same material that's on the existing historic house, was that also used because of the openings on the roof on the east side that you could not use an asphalt shingle roof? It just was able.
I want to be careful in saying that we couldn't have necessarily, but yes, there is a more than more seams and flashing required of this particular design, because there are open vertical vents in places that would have been much more difficult, or you'd see a lot more flashing and a lot less asphalt if this were done with a different material.
Okay. It is a kind of unusual situation that usually like David was saying, a generator doesn't go off that often. It's not that big a deal, but it sounds like everybody just made this into a huge deal.
I'm being kind and paraphrasing, but the short answer is yes, and it did involve a multi-month discussion and kind of staff revisiting and understanding of what Princeton's requirements even were. And I will say that while the generator may be, I'm not going to say simple, but again, the state sound rules don't necessarily apply during an emergency when the generator is running. They do apply when they're being tested, but there's also the second piece of equipment, the air conditioning unit, that to get it away from the property lines, which we would have been compliant, we believe, as well, if along the property line, was also relocated. So that is something that would run regularly and not have the emergency rules of the generator.
I see. All right. Well, if there aren't any, I mean, I think we kind of understand the situation. If there are no other questions, David?
Would the applicant prefer if we said simpler asphalt roof would be fine, as opposed to doing this complicated standing seam with the cuts and angles?
Perhaps if you'd want to give him the option, I'll be honest, I believe he actually prefers the, I don't mean to say more complicated design, but the one that matches the materials of the existing home. This is less of a costs. It's just unusual, and I get to say that they're more interested in doing what he thinks is the right thing to do, rather than save $1 or $2 at this point.
Yeah, and often we don't get to throw that out there as a possibility, so. Anyway.
Well, and And as Ryan was saying, he said, because of the cuts necessary, you're gonna have to have flashing around that. And so you're gonna see like a lot of flashing, which might not look so great, you know,
Or even be less expensive after all that work is done.
yeah. Yeah, Elric,
I think standing seam is an appropriate material for an outbuilding. And it will have fewer details visible. It's sort of a neutral shade, and it should sort of fade into the background. But anyway. I think about the hinges and the bricks instead. I'm talking to the computer, even though the phone's down here. Sorry.
that's okay. So are there other questions, comments? And if not, is anyone willing to make a motion?
Is this a motion or are we writing a memo?
Oh, right, it's a memo. It's going to the zoning board, back to the zoning board.
Then can I just say one other thing? I think the idea of sort of mimicking the big house makes it stick out a little more than if it weren't copying the main structure. So I agree with Elric that the mahogany door may be a little over much. He said that he wouldn't mind if it were painted. Probably doesn't have to be mahogany, something weatherproof. So I would just say that general comment that it doesn't really have to be a junior version of the big house.
Thank you. Great.
Right.
So
So
how would
maybe a
we,
comment on where it's possible to simplify to try to do that.
I think as far as the memo goes, that's the appropriate thing to pass along and comment on.
Okay, let me go to Ed. Ed, do you feel like you have a pretty cohesive memo to send over to zoning?
About as cohesive as the board is, yes. I got it. I got it. Don't worry, I got it.
Right, you
Yeah.
want us marching in lockstep, I see.
Yeah. So, all right. So Frida, you have anything else?
No, I mean, I was just thinking that in trying to mimic the main building and putting the structure in front of the brick building, the roof will pretty much stick out with the contrast. So I think you'll be negating the whole idea. You know, all you'll see is that brick behind the roof. So I think the direction we're going in and stating that it doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, a mini-me of the bigger building is the way to go. I mean, I understand what the owners trying to do, but I mean, I think, yeah, it will stick out, and you will see it from Harrison Street as well. So,
But since it has to be in that location, like we don't have any choice,
right,
is there another roof color that would work?
that's what I'm wondering, yeah.
Can I interject that I think that what you see from Nassau Street is the gable, so you're not going to see the roof.
Right.
You will
Well,
see it from Harris if you can
You'll
see
see it
past
from-
those.
Yeah, I'll see it out my office window every single day.
Yeah, well, I mean, part of this is
Where's
because of the
that?
zoning board. So, I mean, I don't
But
know, because they're the ones who said it has to be over there.
Yeah,
So, you know, I think we're stuck with that.
yeah.
But as far as like, I mean, to me, the roofing material looked like this kind of like just grayish color. It didn't look anything special.
Right, but gray in front of red.
Yeah,
Red brick
but-
sticks out, that's a contrast.
but would it have a red roof?
If there's such a thing, I mean, if you're trying to make it blend in, why not? But the thing is, the question is really, if we're trying to do all, to have it blend into what's behind it, and you only see the gable from Nassau Street, and you need to see what you're looking at from Harrison Street, if you really want to get technical. You know what I mean?
Am I wrong in believing that there are trees that are masking it from
No,
Harrison?
From
There's,
Harrison, no.
there's a deciduous hornbeam. So obviously it's not an all-season plant, but it was designed as a hedge. And
right.
I think that there was a maximum height of 8 feet that.
You can see it.
I mean, what about a dark color on the standing seam? I don't think you want red, because if you've ever seen the red standing seam, it's like bright. It's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And you want to call out the different materials first, rather than try and mimic one roof shouldn't mimic the brick. It should be distinct. But as far as deepening the color, I don't have any objections to that.
So how about a recommendation of a darker color? Would that work for the commission?
David, you got your hand up?
So I appreciate the whole idea of the brick, and I didn't get that at first until Ryan showed us that nice image that helped us with that. But now I'm wondering, what if the brick were painted yellow like the house? I mean, if we're just going to keep talking about colors and roofs and things, why aren't we talking about the wall surface?
Well, I mean, I
Isn't
don't
it
know. I
because
feel
we
like-
wanted this to blend in with the building behind
Right.
it?
And
Yeah,
the yellow would definitely be a contrast.
yeah, like I think painted brick is gonna stand out a lot.
Okay, I'm just putting
I
it
don't
out
know.
there.
Yeah, I don't know.
thought.
I kind of feel like at this point, it needs a roof. It's gotta have something. For me, the standing seam is kind of like, given the situation, it's less flashing. So like an asphalt roof would have a lot of flashing around it in the points where they gotta cut it out. So I feel like the standing seam would be less bad. But I do think a comment about simplifying where possible might just help the conversation over at zoning.
Wait,
Anyway.
does it go back as administrative?
No, I think it just goes to zoning. So it just goes to zoning. Anyway, so.
We need somebody to sign for Elric. He needs an ASL person.
Well, they didn't like that with the other one, so I don't know. I think, but I think we're pretty clear that for the most part, we're okay, given that it has to have that location and it has to house this equipment and it has to have a certain kind of soundproofing that's required. So given all that, you know, this is what, okay.
Agreed.
All right. Anyway, I think that's enough. We're clear?
I've got it.
Okay.
Thank you all.
All right. Well, thanks. I hope that helps, Ryan.
Always does. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna move along. And our second application is for 37 Wiggins Street, which is the 37W Condominiums LLC. And let's see, let's make sure we have everybody we need on the Zoom.
It's just Ryan and Marie.
And wait, we lost you, Elizabeth.
Marina,
Oh, Marina. Okay. There's Marina. So doing double duty, Ryan.
It's called efficiency, Madam Chair.
Okay, so Elizabeth, if you want to go over the report, that'd be great.
Okay, I'm gonna plug in my headset. So Albert, I'm not sure how much you'll hear.
Okay.
Okay, so the applicant 37W Condominium LLC has filed an application with the Princeton Zoning Board of Adjustment for minor site plan development requiring D4 and bulk variances. The project site is identified as block 28.02, lot 30.02, qualifier 01, qualifier 02, and qualifier 03 in the Princeton tax map of the former Princeton Borough and also known as 37 Wigan Street. It lies in the R4 zone and is identified in the Princeton Master Plan as a property within the suggested residential Central Historic District, the historic preservation element of the Princeton Master Plan. The house on the property sustained fire damage in January of 2022. The applicant proposes to alter and/or reconstruct exterior sections of the first, second floor and demolish the third floor and roof to construct a new third floor and new roof. The redesigned building would continue to provide 3 condominium residential units that existed at the building prior to the fire. So this application obviously is referred to HPC because it is identified as a component of the element of the master plan. And again, this application is under the jurisdiction of the Zoning Board of Adjustment, whom HPC serves as advisory to. So this property contains 0.17 acres and is located on the south side of Wigan Street between Madison Street and Van Deventer Avenue, which is a residential neighborhood. The structure on the property was first seen on the 1906 sand map and subsequent 1911 and 1918 maps, which there appear to be really no change to the building footprint since the map 1906. The house was shown as a 2.5-story dwelling with a full width front porch and a small covered back porch off the southwest rear projection. There's a cross gable shingle roof on the main house and the porch roofs were likely tin. The site currently contains a building footprint that's very similar to what exists today and what's shown from the Sanborn maps, except for the newer constructed covered rear exterior staircase in the back and the exclusion of the 2 porches and the side bay bump out. There's a centered concrete walk, steps, and small stoop for the front entrance. All windows appear to be 12/1 with lintels, narrow window sills, and louver shutters. However, there are no shutters in the rear windows. There's a street facing attic dormer with a half-hip roof and a single window underneath that, which projects from the side facing gable roof. The entry door is 4-panel with glazing at the top. Partial side lights on each side of the door consist of 4 vertical panes and a single solid panel below. The door surround is low profile with a decorative segmented pediment. Wall light fixtures flank the front door and are mounted on the door surround. The exterior is clad in white clapboard. The entrance door and shutters are painted black and all roofs are shingled. A macadam driveway runs along the east property line to a parking area in the rear yard. So according to the photographs that were submitted as part of the application, it appears that the majority of the fire damage is to the exterior of the 3rd floor and the roof, and more severely on the south and east building elevation. So I'm not talking about the interior, just the exterior. The applicant wishes to construct, modify, and alter portions of the 1st and 2nd floor and demolish the 3rd floor and roof in order to redevelop the building into a full 3-story building. A new spiral rear staircase will replace the existing exterior staircase and provide access to the 2nd floor through a new rear 2nd floor balcony. Existing windows will be replaced, relocated, or enlarged with mostly paired 12/1 aluminum clad windows in an iron ore color. Windows for the new construction, 3rd floor and part of the rear, will install full glazed windows and doors. The building presently contains 3 condominiums, 1 per floor. With the proposed improvements, the building will continue to provide 3 condominiums, 1 on the 1st floor. However, the upper floors will each occupy space on both the second and third floor. The floor area will increase from 4,245 square feet to 4,395 square feet. You can refer to the zoning report for any additional information on that. The applicant indicates there will be no change to existing driveway or parking lot, and no trees will be removed as part of their application, and no new landscape is proposed. So just as far as additional building improvements, I just want to go over the color code. So code 1 is considered the incredible white color. Code 2 is mineral gray. Code 3 is there's chartreuse gray, and color 4 is the iron ore. And I believe that Ms. Rubina's illustrations pretty much reflect those colors that she's presented in her package. So the existing clapboard will be replaced with stucco in color 1. The new construction, which is a third floor and rear addition, will be clad in a quarter fry reglet channel freed in stucco color number 2, and the lower floors will be stucco in color number 1. And again, the illustration she has on there for her elevations really does a great job of representing those colors. A vertical element from the roof line to the second floor on the east and west elevation will be constructed of boral trim in color 4. The existing entry door and door surround will be removed, and there will be a new door installed, which will be a Pella entry door with 3/4 light. Enlarged front entry landing and construction of a new flat roof over the landing will be constructed with support columns, and the support columns and trim will be true exterior. The new second floor balcony will be off the rear elevation, and the balcony deck will be TimberTech in ashwood color. And as mentioned before, this second floor balcony will tie into the new spiral staircase. The existing patio and steps off the back of the building will be replaced with a new patio and steps for the first floor unit. A new parge coat foundation and porch will be in color number 2. Mr. Rubina, I'm just going to ask you when you testify, if you could just talk about, I thought that the porch steps and landing will be the blue stone, but I'm not sure if it's back there, if it's the front porch. So I'm going to leave that to you, and maybe it's both. The existing covered exterior rear stairs will be removed as mentioned and replaced with aluminum spiral staircase, and the spiral stairs and railing will be in gray curtain powder coat finish. Replacement windows will generally be enlarged or new window openings installed at their location or in a new location. The openings that are eliminated will be patched, and the replacement windows will be Pella Lifestyle Series. The replacement windows are proposed to be 2/1 with stimulated divided light grille without the 7/8 spacer, and the new windows will be full glaze, and all windows and trim will be in the color number 4. I believe that the porch over the enlarged front entry will be the Liberty SBS self-adhering roof system in black. And then the new roof itself, the main building, will be the GAF Timberline high definition shingles in pewter gray. Few other things. There is a rear Bilco door, which will be replaced with a regular door and which will continue to function for the basement. And there will be new ceiling mounted porch lights, which are going to be LED in 3000 Kelvin and dimmable. The parking will stay the same. They are providing 6 bicycle spaces in the basement where none are required, and 3 of which will be supplied with charging outlets. As far as the zoning goes, there was a report written by the engineer and zoning officer dated November 8th. And the D variance is for the FAR, the floor area ratio, where the required is 45%. The existing is 58%, and it's increasing for the proposed for 61%. There are existing non-conforming variances for lot area, for the combined side yard, small side yard, and required parking. The non-conforming height to setback ratio will still exceed the allowable. However, it will be improved with existing nonconformity with the proposed building height reduction. And the maximum impervious coverage is a variance that is also required, which right now the maximum impervious allowable is 29.5%. And the existing is 60.1%, and it's slightly increasing to 60.4%. So just to go to the comments now. Just to note that as mentioned, the height of the building is decreasing, so the maximum existing roof height will be 42 feet 6 inches. Is 42.6 inches, and it will be the proposed will be reduced to 36 and 8 inches, about 6 feet shorter. The applicant indicates that window replacements proposed are intended to increase energy efficiency. The applicant also indicates that most of the existing building facade is being preserved, while the new construction replacing the fire damaged top floor will be integrated into the building, emulating the historic character while offering a mix of old and new that may be found elsewhere in the surrounding neighborhood. It does appear that the features of the building facade that's being preserved is a stone foundation, the structural front and side building elevations, and the 12/1 window configurations. However, the existing windows will be enlarged. The front entry door and the surround will be removed and replaced. And the fabric of the building will be altered from horizontal clapper to stucco, and the roof line and its style will also change. And just 2 questions for the applicant. They're just asked to confirm that the only rooftop equipment will be the solar panels. HPC appreciates the south-facing solar panels, and which will not be facing Wigan Street. And it is recommended that any exterior solar equipment be mounted in the rear portion of the property if possible. And that's all I have with this report, Madam Chair.
Okay,
Elizabeth,
thank you. Thank you. Go ahead.
before we move on, can you let Leighton in again?
Sure, thank you for letting me know.
All right, and while we do that, I guess I'll turn it over to Mr. Kennedy if you want to go ahead.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the board, again, thanks so much. You know, there's never a good time for a fire, unfortunately. Last January, the 3 unit owners here were faced with, unfortunately, and you'll see some photos, the top floor being gutted. They took it as an opportunity to modernize the building a bit. As Elizabeth said in her memo, the height is being brought down considerably. Some material changes that should, we feel, really help a 3 unit building with 3 different owners for longevity purposes and maintenance purposes, rather than getting 3 people. Unfortunately, while we have 3 good groups of owners now, in the future that may not be the case, and it's always tough to get 3 different owners together for maintenance and painting, and some of the simplification of materials from a longevity standpoint are helpful there. Again, while there's never a good time for a fire, this was particularly unfortunate because it happened right before, or the redesign opportunity happened right as the town was modifying its floor area calculations. So fire happened, we'll call it the opportunity to modernize a bit, and then at the end of that, just before filing the revised floor area rules. So we actually likely would have been compliant had the fire been maybe 3 or 4 months earlier with the municipality's prior floor area calculations. That's largely why, without really changing the footprint or much really to the 3rd floor and actually dropping it down considerably, we still, when recalculating under the new rules, have a floor area variance that we will need from the zoning board. The other changes, there is a tiny increase of impervious coverage. It's just a kind of a function of just dealing with the building itself, unfortunately. I'll turn over to Marina to kind of talk us through some of these, both the changes and unfortunately what happened about 10 months ago.
Okay, thank you. So Marina, are you gonna?
Yes, I am
Yeah.
here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep, really
Let's
well.
hope no more technical difficulties. So thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Elizabeth, for your report. So as this picture shows, what Ryan was describing is the fire that happened January 10th last year. So then to continue the explanation of why the third floor needs to be taken off and replaced is the insurance company conducted their investigation, hired an engineering firm, and basically they concluded that the structural damage to the entire roof framing is beyond repair and the roof has to come down and be replaced. Because the existing building is located on the site that it's completely in violation of all the setbacks, as soon as that roof comes off, anything that goes new has to go to the zoning board because it's in every possible setback. And as Ryan mentioned, that ordinance 2022-14 went into effect literally the week before we submitted, and our submission was returned because we had to update all the forms because we had a compliant FAR based on the previous rules, but not with the new rules. We try to stay as compliant as possible, but in this case, the rules just change on us. So to continue the excellent research that Elizabeth did with her Sanborn maps that she included in her report, our owners looked up, the Historical Society of Princeton has documentation, and you could see this is not our building, but here we are with the red arrow. You could see it peaking on the side right there. And then there are also other photographs of other buildings in the neighborhood that show what that general vicinity historically looked like. And to us, it looked like it's sort of a body of the building and then kind of a hat on the top. And then to go back to the roof shape, this is the Sanborn map showing the roof. And then you could see that there was a porch in the front and looked like there was a little porch in the back. This is from Google Maps. You could see that somebody did something to this roof at some point. We don't know what, but it doesn't seem to match. I'm guessing at some point it was converted to a 3-unit condominium and things got redone. So you see that this main gable carries through, but it didn't used to do that. And there was another something going on here, which doesn't seem to match anymore. So our proposal here is the idea would be that the first 2 floors are more or less staying as they are, and then we take off that burned roof framing and we replace it with new framing. And the color that we chose to sort of, I don't know, diagram or show in real life, where this is the portion of the building that is staying and this is the portion on top that is basically rebuilt post-fire. And then that same portion that exterior stair that was sort of open balcony, it's kind of a problematic stair because everybody's walking in front of everybody's windows and prevents people on the interior from enjoying the view of their beautiful backyard, which actually is kind of, it has these really large, gorgeous trees. So you feel like you're in a tree house, except you have a fire stair in front of your face. So this drawing, even though this is a tree protection plan, but it shows you really well that the blue is the property line, and then you could see the setbacks. So the existing building violates just about anything and everything. So we are staying in the existing footprint, not changing anything site related, and we're basically putting a new hat on. To walk you through the plans, the idea here is we're enclosing that portion that used to be the existing open stair, And then we're enlarging the front porch. We're not doing the entire porch for the entire facade because it's expensive, but also because this is a 3-unit building, you don't get any credit for any porches. So by virtue of adding a porch, we have to count the porch towards our floor area ratio. So we're kind of exacerbating our own problem, but we felt that having no cover at the front door, no porch was really not working at all. So we're proposing to have a porch, and there will be an entry hole basically similar to what it is right now. And then the existing unit, as you can see, kind of wraps around the ground floor right now. And you kind of go through this really strange narrow opening. So by removing the stair that goes up on the side and putting the stair in the middle, we were able to create a much more usable space on the interior. And then we have combined the 2 upper floors, and instead of having them stacked on top of the other, we're putting them side by side, and that makes it much more usable for people who live there that don't have to carry groceries all the way up to the 3rd floor without, you know, any elevators or dumbwaiters, so that it creates units that have their living spaces on the 2nd floor. And then again, by eliminating this emergency stair that everybody had to look through towards the backyard, having both units have really wonderful windows facing the backyard and enjoying that treehouse feeling. And then the upstairs, again, they're side by side with no changes to the number of bedrooms. And then this is the roof. And as Elizabeth exactly pointed out correctly, that the solar panels are in the back, and the owners are really interested in having their solar panels connected to, because there's 3 units and they're individually owned, you could connect who gets power from each unit. It's easier in a condo than in an apartment building. So this actually works really well. And then here are the documents. Remember, so I said that, you know, this building violates just about anything it could possibly violate right now. So we're reducing the violations that exist currently. And here you could see, so this is the existing front facade, and we're proposing the additional porch. And then on the side, you could see, so the blue is the portions that are being rebuilt after the fire. And yeah, so this is the back elevation. So when right now, this is that open stair that you see on the exterior, this would be enclosed space in the living room. And to answer Elizabeth's question, I was hoping that the bluestone would be both front and back. That's my hope. And yeah, so here is our last slide, and we hope that you give us your suggestions. And then unfortunately, the owners of the property, they're in different time zones and on a plane today. So they couldn't be here, but we will definitely take all of your suggestions and recommendations and deliver them first to our clients, of course, and then to the zoning board.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so let's open this up to questions, comments. I just have a quick question about the changes because of the fire, and because the top floor needs to be rebuilt. So all of a sudden, all these, like if somebody said, oh, well, why don't you just build what there was before? Basically, that's not possible with our zoning, right?
Correct. Well, it is possible, but it will require just as much of a variance. So we did have a conversation with the zoning officer and basically said, what if we take it off because it's literally burned and put it back in place exactly where it is? Still a variance, because the minute you take it off, it's a variance because it's in every side yard, front yard, anything. It's above the height limit, everything.
Right, and I saw on your drawings, you have 40 feet. So 40 feet, it is the absolute highest you can go?
The height limit,
Yeah,
that's the height limit, yeah.
but the current height is 42 feet, but 40 feet is the highest you can go.
Yes, so
To-
these
to-
height limits and zoning requirements probably came into existing after the building was already built.
Uh-huh.
That's probably how it ended up in violation, I'm guessing,
Yeah.
Okay.
And to-
but we don't know.
to rebuild to 40 feet would require in this case, a bulk variance. I guess if you went above 44, that would be another D variance, but we would need a variance to go back up to the height that it was at.
Okay, okay. Just to help everybody understand the complications. Elizabeth, you have your hand up?
Yes, Madam Chair. I just want to.
Wait, we lost you.
Oh, sorry, I have to get closer. I just want the commission to know that the former borough ordinance did vision where you could actually.
Wait, you're still fading out?
How's that? I put my head thing back.
Okay, I think it's better.
Okay. The zoning ordinance was changed where at one point you were allowed to build the building back in its, and I think that the commission will recall because we had that over there on the Anderson town area
Yeah,
where you could build it exactly the same footprint and location. However, that has been, the ordinance was revised, so that no longer is available.
okay, thank you.
That seems dangerous for our interest in historic structures, though, in the future.
I think that we had this discussion that we preferred for it to be able to go back to the way it was, especially when we've had properties in the Witherspoon Jackson Historic District, where we would want that footprint to stay as it is, but oftentimes if there is demolition or reconstruction, they end up centering it in the lot because they want to not have any variances. So unfortunately, it makes it pretty monopoly designed that way. And I think that, you know, the commission had talked about that we favored it being able to be placed back in its location if the applicant wanted to do that.
It seems to me that I mean, that's okay, but I'd like to think that every single proposal would be taken up separately rather than, I don't want to be setting a precedent by with something like this, which could come back to bite us with more significant buildings in the future. You know, if they would not allow a building to be rebuilt in its original form, that's pretty scary. But if it's taken literally building by building, then I guess we could live with that, no?
I think a lot of it has to do with the footprint, Elric, that they can use the same footprint that was existing. That's the way the ordinance was.
But the height, the fact that the gables on the original building can't be replicated because of the limitations on the height maximum.
I mean, as Marina and Mr. Kennedy had stated, it's because of the ordinance change. So regardless, they'd have to have a variance at this point.
All right, other comments, questions? Oh, Christine.
Yes, if they need a variance anyway, I don't see why the existing configuration and gable end could be created. And the applicant has a statement somewhere that says that that they're complementing the style or the neighborhood general styles, and I think it's completely contrary. And even though there have been some changes to the individual buildings, they still stand as a whole of late 19th and early 20th century construction. And this is completely different from everything in the neighborhood.
So, but to your point, if they were to try to rebuild, the exact same structure, they have to go for a bulk variance, which is even more onerous.
No, it's not more onerous. They're going for it anyway. And the fact that it's pre-existing and they might be preserving the existing building would be complimentary. You know, they need a variance no matter what. So.
Right,
that's
but are
not
they,
to
but
change
they're,
the style of the building.
but I'm just trying to figure out the type of variances, would it change? If you went to the, like the 42 and a half feet gable roof, would you have to get a different type of variance?
No, it's still a C variance.
Well-
But they want a variance for FAR, which is more than what they have now, and that's a D variance, and they need 5 votes on the zoning board for that. So
Right.
that's a more onerous, let's say, variance than a C variance.
Right. But rebuilding it the way it was would make them go for the D rather than the C variance.
No, they would have C variances and they would not be changing the FAR, but they would probably apply for just what they have now. They wouldn't be increasing it.
No, the increased FAR is due to the porch.
Julie, if they went up more
So
than
if we take off
10%,
but
if
if
they
we
went
take
up
off,
more than 10% of where they are now, they need the onerous D variance. If it's
Okay.
less than 10%, they get a regular bulk variance.
right,
Right,
but
Ryan?
also-
That is correct. The current, the plan as proposed, though, has for height, not only doesn't have a D height variance, we eliminate the existing C height variance. And I think the point that Marina was also making, when I think a few people were talking at the same time, is that the new floor area rules and the porch would also require us with the prior design to get a D floor area variance as well.
Okay,
right, because we
But I
don't get a
think
credit
Chris-
for the porch. We have to count the porch towards the FAR.
Right. But I think Christine's point is that if you wanted to go up a little higher, that you could get permission, maybe, along with a pile of other variances that you're after, as a C variance or regular old bulk variance. Is that what your point is, Christine?
Yes, and the thing is the fact that it is existing and they would be just replacing existing. I think that it's not such a big deal to ask for that.
Right, my only question is that this is not the original roof, as we can see in the Sanborn maps. So for us to rebuild something that burned, that didn't work very well, that is not original and requires more variances, just didn't seem like the right move, but we're open to your suggestions.
Yeah, I'll also add to that, that I think if that process were available where the same thing could be built without variances, that's likely what the owners would do. But because we have to wait with the building kind of just sitting there open and unusable for 10 months, it was an opportunity to reconfigure it to work better the way that it would work for the ownership. I think it is an unfortunate thing that the way the ordinance is structured discourages in these cases keeping things exactly as they are, and encourages putting together a plan that perhaps works better for the property owners, and it provides a different layout with the 2 second, third floor units and reconfigure them that way. If we didn't have to wait 10 months and could have just pulled permits to rebuild it as is, they probably would have done that. But that extra waiting kind of pushes them, the thinking towards this, and it becomes a pretty onerous thing to get the approval after a year to go just as it was with I'm not going to say faulty design, that's not fair, but with a dated layout internally for how the units were, and that's why the revisions were considered if you had to wait that long anyway.
I guess my question was a better layout internally looked at if the building configuration would not be changed? Was that ever looked at as a possibility?
Yes.
And what was decided?
The existing roof configuration has a lot of valleys and low spots. And because with the new attic rules, even all of those low spaces would still be considered portions of floor area ratio. We would be creating a lot of low areas that are very much unusable, but still count towards your floor area ratio. It just sort of made it kind of a very strange configuration to continue, not original roof that counts towards your floor area ratio and doesn't allow you to use the space efficiently. It just sort of like, yes, we did look at it and decided that was not the best proposal.
All right, I think Tom, where's Tom? Did you have your hand up?
I did, and I'm here. Thank you. I'm in the dark. Pardon me for that. This is a case where our local citizens are having to accommodate a lot of different changes in regulations in the midst of adversity, having a fire in their income producing property that has deprived the community of 3 residential units. Now, I know we're not supposed to think too heavily on the economic consequences to our owners or whatnot. Our purview is historical preservation, and I do respect that. However, I do think we need to be flexible here in a case like this. I'm taking Elric's point into mind here that I don't think we need to set any precedent here, but we must be sensitive here that our dear citizens who have to get up after a consequence like this and invest their monies into this problem to solve so that we can get the housing back online. We have to be accommodating here as much as we can be without being too onerous in terms of our historical preservation specifics, unless there are some really egregious elements here, which I myself don't see. So I look forward to the others commenting, but I am sensitive here to the owners and thinking just from a citizen's point of view that we want to be accommodating as much as we can because this is a distressed situation. And so let us help let's do what we can for our historic preservation consistent with our tradition, but also get this back online because this is, we're losing tax revenue, we're losing housing opportunities, and this family is dealing with economic challenges here. So that's my particular point of view.
Okay, thank you. Roger, you have your hand up?
Yeah, hi. I wanted to start by complimenting Marina. I don't know if you're aware of this, but I've cited your work to other developers in terms of your sensitivity to context and appropriateness in terms of fitting your new houses into older neighborhoods. I live around the corner from your house on Maple Street. And although when I first saw it, I said, oh boy, this is interesting. It fits, it works in around the corner from this property on Madison. The work you did with, I think, the most elegant facade on the street where you went up in the back is also a testament to sensitivity to context. Having said that, I'm not sure this building works and it really only has to work with 39 next door because and maybe some of the houses across the street, it's an unusual situation in that there are only 2 north-facing houses on that block. The house on the other corner is on Van Deventer. And I guess my concern is the hat's relationship to the first and second floor. I'm sure the fenestration works from the inside. I'm not sure the rhythm works from the outside. I appreciate your repetition of the 12/1 double hung windows, mirroring the former fenestration. But I'm just not sure how well the 3rd floor works with the first 2 floors and how well it relates to 39 to the left of the building if you're facing the front of the building. So that's, I guess, my general comment.
Okay,
Thank you, and appreciate all the comments.
thank you. Elric.
Well, I'm glad to, I think, I'm glad not to be the first on this because I agree with a lot of things that.
Wait, hold on a second. I think Elizabeth has to set up the phone better
Okay.
for us to hear you, because we're not hearing you.
Okay.
Talk, Albert. Try again.
All right,
Can you hear him?
better? I hope.
I think so.
I'll put the phone right in front of me. I think Christine's points are well taken. I really feel like it is a matter of making this structure fit into the neighborhood, which at the moment has a pretty uniform scale and a level of the materials and whatever work together. And our concern has always been the facade as much as we can see from the street. And I think there are opportunities to the back of the house to get more room on the third floor. But I just feel like, yes, you've picked up on the 12/1s, which is great, but you've doubled them. There are no shutters anymore. There's no, the original porch was unfortunately removed years ago. And I think that really helped in terms of the fact that the street, many of the other houses have porches. I wish it could be back. I think it looks basically between the stucco, the colors, the flat roof over the portico, it doesn't feel residential to me. It feels more institutional. And that I feel is just unfortunate. The owners could have rebuilt it from what I understand, as it was without prolonging it this long. So I'm not sure Tom's comment really follows. But I just feel like it's I think you can do a better job. I know you can do a better job because I've seen your work in front of the council before here and the commission before. And I just feel like that this would work just fine behind Witherspoon Street, like that warehouse behind the old hardware store, for instance. I think what you did there was terrific, but this just doesn't feel particularly residential to me. And I'm sorry to beat on it, but give it another go if possible.
Costs money.
But I really like the idea of the second and third floor, the way you've arranged things. I think I think those two apartments would have a great deal more character. And I appreciate the point that you made about the original porch access on the back and the way it kind of gets in it eliminates the private spaces particularly on the second floor. So it isn't without merit. It's just, I feel like it can go further toward accommodating the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I briefly say that if
sure.
there was a possibility to rebuild the roof exactly as it was without going through a year of board approvals, it would have been already done. So I don't think that is out of the question. We investigated that immediately. But if there are any specific suggestions, for example, on how to modify the proposal for the front porch, for example, we're completely open. If you have specific, unfortunately, we've discussed with the owners and they're not interested in building an entire front porch. But if there are any specific modifications that you would like to suggest for how we could do the porch differently, we would love to hear that.
Okay.
Well, it would affect the windows above the porch, but a gabled porch, the gabled portico, as opposed to the flat, would
have the porch have a gable. Oh, okay. Oh, that's an interesting proposal. I didn't think of that. Because it looked in the historic pictures, but it's just the edge. It looked like it was pretty flat to me. Okay, that's an interesting proposal.
Any other comments, Suggestions? Christine, sorry, you have your hand up.
Yes, One of the things that I also thought about that I didn't before was the fact that the two tones, the white or light colored with the darker slate blue color, all over Princeton, in fact, all over Mercer County and central New Jersey, there are a lot of buildings, a lot of knockdowns and buildings going up with white, they're white with black windows. And the first two stories of this building remind me of that. And I'm wondering if it's, if the colors were less of a contrast, it would be a bit more modulated in a sense, because right now I think it will stand out incredibly with that big contrast of
So this would be the color of the windows or the color of the top floor in relationship to the base?
the facade as opposed to the windows, but the windows,
Okay, got it. So the upper hat and the body having more similar colors,
well, more
Gotcha.
complementary. This is a big contrast and
less contrast. Got it. Yep, all good suggestions.
and the windows are going to be black.
There, it's a dark gray color. It's not black. I'm not a fan of black color. It's like a steel gray.
Okay.
Okay, and David, you had your hand up.
So, yes, I understand that we have a really complex set of conditions and things changed, and we got to try and make something work here. And I see that that's what the complication is. Things like the interior spaces, the configuration where it's two duplexes seems really nice. I can see that being a lot more appealing to people. And I think that back stairs solution is great. Every time I've driven by that building over the years, I thought, boy, those are kind of not really great, not pleasant. But then there's the other side of this. Looking at the house before the fire, I think the most distinguishing elements were those steep gables. And what we've actually got to now is what we have that we're retaining essentially is the bulk of the first and second floor. And then we're changing its trim, its finish, its colors, and we're going pretty radically away from what I think was going on in that neighborhood when those houses became popular and more developed. Last year, Frida and I went to or did a Zoom with the guy that lives in that neighborhood who studied it. And this was, an area of elegant, probably merchants doing well, houses on larger lots, big bulky houses that were the style of the time. And that together as a neighborhood, they make a statement. And what I see here is we're losing that house's participation in the look of the neighborhood. We're going from a large single family house, already converted to 3 condominiums, probably was apartments for a while first, to, I don't know if Elric's description of institutional is the word that comes to mind, but it comes to me as ordinary looking, more like a small apartment building built in the 50s or 60s in a lot of cities. And it doesn't really relate anymore to that neighborhood. That's where I'm coming from. It loses some of its graciousness, I think, but that's an opinion. But I also think that the color scheme with the dark at top is top heavy somehow. And then when you've done that, and I look back at the top of it, what I see is kind of a mid-century modern ranch house stuck on top of this colonial revival house. And that doesn't really seem to make sense to me. And I guess I would like to say, like what Christine was saying, is you're going for a lot of variances. Maybe this set isn't the right set to be going for, and try to do something that's more in keeping with what that neighborhood was about. I'm not trying to say preserve the old look, but I'm trying to say don't go so radically different.
So is there anything in particular that you feel that is, that we could sort of do or change?
Well,
or-
I
It
don't
sounds
understand-
like you
yeah.
like the new back. Am I understanding
do.
correctly? So there's no problem with the back. The less contrast would be better, and
Yeah.
then some modification to the front. Am I hearing correctly? That would make it
Yeah,
somehow,
and some of those modifications would be the front porch is very blunt looking to me, but that maybe I just don't quite get the look on this angle. And then the windows across the top that don't seem to relate to anything else in the building, and you're doing all new windows, it seems, in the building anyway. There seems like there could be something that would help them be more harmonious. They just
Okay,
really look
so-
distinctly different.
so the rethink the windows in the top floor and maybe do something different with the front porch? Is that the suggestion?
Yeah, and the contrast of colors.
And the contrast of colors. Okay, sorry, I'm taking notes here.
Very good.
We appreciate that very much, Marina.
Yeah, maybe consider one color for the entire building. I think that contrast is really stark. But as everybody said, I love the interior, the townhouse feel, the 2 levels. That's really great. And taking down the stairs, good also. I agree with David about the windows. The top floor does seem like it's not speaking to the rest of the building. So that's something you might want to consider.
It's the front of the building where the back of it, you could do all kinds of things with, but the front, I feel should bow to the neighbors around it and keep that remaining character. As David says, it's the gables that have persisted in giving that building character, even after the porches were ripped off and that unfortunate mid-century revival looking doorway was inserted. But
Okay, so
Also-
maybe some ideas of introducing gables towards the front. Am I hearing that correctly?
I'd love to see some accommodation in that direction, yes. And in the back, you're talking about very lovely view out the back, and I appreciate the fact that you see that, and you see that as a terrific asset for these apartments, and that you've got living spaces facing the back. You could open up the back for more windows, as you've done, up to the 3rd floor, which wouldn't be the original gables, because we're not going to see that from the street. Anyway, thank you.
Okay. It sounds like we'll look into possible adding some form of gable forms on the front, and either less contrast, where I was a little bit afraid of having the whole thing be one color for it just being kind of too big and not having a hat. But Frida's making a good point that maybe if it was one color, that would be okay. I just chickened out of that, but maybe I shouldn't be such a chicken.
All right, Tom, you have your hand up?
Yes, just one more quick comment. Marina, is there anything that the owner, who I think is on the line, wishes to say? I don't wish to put the owner on the spot, but would it be helpful for us to hear from the owner about their concerns with the challenges that they face with the ordinances and the changes, and working with you to get the design right?
I don't, Marina, unless you see them on, I don't believe they are, to be honest, but Tom,
They're on the plane.
yeah, but I will
As far
say,
as we know.
I do appreciate that very much so. And just to kind of summarize, we're here for courtesy review. This is not an historic district, of course. We're in a property that unfortunately is I used the term once before with zoning, but kind of comically not miszoned, but non-conforming to the existing zoning, and really putting it back together or doing anything, none of it will be quick. And I think you guys recognized some of the benefit, at least internally, of this revised design to have those two more functional second floor units that have second and third floor kind of duplex units with the space to the back, with not having to go up that bizarre 3 flights of outdoor stairs. There are benefits there. And our goal here is to get these kind of comments from you guys, and we're appreciative of them. And we're not, we're not kidding. We're taking notes and want to incorporate a lot of this into it, because that's what your role is, and we take that to heart. Unfortunately, where this is the perfect storm of a tragedy, of an ordinance changing midstream, and there no longer being a process to just put Humpty Dumpty back together again without waiting 6 to 8 months to go through the board. That there just isn't that process in Princeton any longer. So there are some positives. You try to when you wait that time and make that investment, you try to pull some positives out of it. We're going to try to pull some more out of the comments that we hear here tonight. And there are some really good ones, and that's why that's why we have these. So thank you for that. If they were here, they probably would say something much more eloquent than I would about what they've gone through, between insurance and the engineering and trying to get this back together again and get people back in these units. And on top of all that, it is 3 sets of folks. So it is a multifamily property with this type of ownership is challenging when there's a fire, and it was, I don't want to say it's difficult to corral everyone, but to get everyone's interests to align in a situation where we don't have that easy, just put it back together mechanism is certainly difficult. And that some of the choices kind of go to simplify that going forward, so that future groups of 3 owners don't have to deal with painting as often or keeping up the property, because we've made some better choices about how this can look nice and stay together well into the future. But heard you on that. Much appreciative of your thoughts there. There's nothing that this board or historic has really, I'm choosing my words carefully here, but the any delay of process for the applicant getting to rebuild this is unfortunately, it certainly has nothing to do with you guys. And to the extent we could have, your input is very important to the process. If Princeton had a plan to get or a way to get that, I don't know, earlier a bit, we're kind of stuck here because we had to deal with this engineering and figure out how to get this back together again. This wasn't one where we could have had a courtesy review a year ago and come back. It just didn't. We had to go as quickly as we could to get in here and try to get something before a board to build something. But again, having said that, very appreciative. There was a phenomenal comments here. We're taking good notes. I'm sure, I know Ed was too. There'll be I guess the next step is this is to have a kind of recommendation memo letter or however that works, but we'll take that to heart. But we've heard what you said here too, and are going to do our darndest to incorporate as many of those things as we can.
Well, thank you. And thank you for coming in. We really, really do appreciate it. And I'm glad that Councilman Newland is here. So perhaps there can be something, ordinance wise addressed to situations like this where there's a tragedy and there can be some kind of, I don't know, fast tracking or changes that would allow people to just deal with this particular situation. So. Okay.
Madam Chair, thank
Yeah.
you for that. I think the general sentiment that, mayor and council are trying to move forward the process of smart growth. And it is obviously the venue and the purview of the HPC to preserve and protect the town's rich history and cultural artifacts. I think when we can come together in such a way to meet in the middle, if you will, to have both of those sides realized, I think it bodes well for the town, for the HPC, and for the applicants as well. Certainly, I've been listening carefully, and I would defer and work with Ed Schmier to take any pertinent information back to mayor and council to see what, if anything, can be done. to streamline the process and to make the process better for all of the entities who are involved.
Okay, well, thank you. And Ed, as far as the memo goes, you're good? You have enough comments?
Yes, I've got your comments. We'll circulate a draft to you and to Ryan.
Perfect.
Thank
Okay,
Ryan-
well,
Ryan,
thank
do you
you.
have a date for your meeting? Ryan, do you have a meeting date for zoning?
It's, they're gonna hear us at a special meeting tomorrow. No, I believe the January. Best I can tell, and I know they just set the dates for next year, so this is not official, but I believe the January 25th meeting is our best hope.
Okay, well, we'll definitely have somebody there, okay? All right, thanks a lot, you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
So now-
Marina.
thank
Everyone.
you. And Ed, I guess we're done with our applications. Unless you want to hang on and meet Isaac Kremer. Is he on?
We just brought him over.
Perfect. Thanks, Ed.
Merry Christmas.
Good
Merry
night, Ed. Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
Hi, Isaac. So we're so pleased you could be here.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So I think I sent out an email with a link to a article from Tap Into Princeton about Isaac's role in the town here. But Isaac, maybe you want to just briefly go over what you're doing for Princeton and how we can help.
Gotcha. Thank you, Chairperson, to the commission members and also to the staff who are on the call. I did have prepared comments, and in my run through, they were about 16 minutes. I think I'm going to give you the abbreviated 5-minute or less version, if that would be acceptable to you.
Sure.
Excellent. But I'm happy to submit both my comments, and also there was a presentation I gave at the New Jersey Historic Trust Conference in June, which I believe one of your commissioners or several of them might have attended, and I'd also be happy to submit that for the record.
Great, thank you.
Excellent. So with that, as you said, my name is Isaac Kramer, and I'm the Executive Director of the Princeton Business Partnership. I've worked in downtown revitalization for over 14 years, including most recently 6 years in Metuchen as Executive Director of the Metuchen Downtown Alliance. I hold a master's in Historic Preservation Planning from Cornell University and have had additional training in Historic Preservation Tax Credits and Historic Real Estate Finance through a scholarship that I received from the National Trust for Historic Preservation. I've also been active in preservation advocacy, including at the national level, where I advocated for funding of state historic preservation offices with members of Congress. For more than a decade, I've given 30 presentations at conferences from the regional to the international level. I've written extensively, influencing fellow practitioners, including around issues of placemaking and entrepreneurship. Tonight, I'm here to talk with you about the Princeton Business Partnership. So to give you the quick outline, that a steering committee was formed in 2020 by invitation from the mayor, and they met for much of the next year. And they came to the conclusion that the establishment of a special improvement district, or a SID, was in the interest of the community. A SID is a public-private partnership in which property and business owners elect to make a collective contribution to the maintenance, development, and promotion of their commercial interest, of the commercial district, that is, excuse me. The SID provides a range of supplemental services, and it's governed by a board of directors that's elected by the members of the districts in accordance with the bylaws. The steering committee found through their work that property and business owners are an important part of the Princeton community, and a partnership is needed between the business community, the municipality, and the community at large for Princeton to thrive. The SID includes all commercial, industrial, and retail and apartment properties with rental units of 5 or more units in 11 sub areas. including Nassau Street, Witherspoon Street, Jugtown, 206 North, Dinky, Harrison, Yasna Polana, Palmer Square, Princeton Shopping Center, Poor Farm Road, and a few others. Most fundamentally, though, a SID requires a comprehensive partnership between local government and business to realize its potential and implement revitalization efforts throughout Princeton. We do have a work plan, and we have a mission statement and also 4 sections to it. I won't read you every one, but the mission is important, so I'll say that word for word. The Princeton Business Partnership shall shape, maintain, and grow a flourishing Princeton economy by offering an exceptional experience for residents and visitors, and advocate for a robust and diverse business community through strong partnerships. The 4 sections deal with economic development, marketing and events, visual and capital improvements, and lastly, administration. I do want to point out on the economic development front, that's the closest fit with the work of the Historic Preservation Commission. And we envision the partnership as serving as a liaison for businesses to municipal, county, and state governments. So hopefully this is the first of many times we have the opportunity to address you and to participate in the public process, which you're all part of. With that, I'll just briefly speak about our work in Metuchen. And again, I will submit for the record my presentation, which includes visuals, over 100 before and after photos of the various projects I'll mention. But we won't go over those tonight. But the Metuchen turnaround, as we call it, had 3 parts. The first was establishment of a downtown management organization with a SID that provided stable funding and a Main Street program to organize volunteers. Second, new development. And third, political support to experiment and try new things. The SID in Metuchen since 2016 contributed $1.125 million to the downtown management organization, which I led. The borough contributed an additional $750,000 to that organization in the same period of time. And then Main Street, New Jersey gave out $4.3 million of funding to 25 Main Street communities statewide, a substantial portion which we secured in Metuchen. We also saw new development in the form of 744,000 square feet added to the downtown that included 387 apartments, new commercial space, a 700 space parking deck, and a town plaza for community events. And each new household generated $14,218 of spending for downtown businesses, or $5.5 million annually. I will say the political support was strong. I'm going to point to my presentation where you'll see our work around public space activations, an iterative project delivery process where we did rapid, low-cost pilot and demonstration projects that led to the interim design and longer-term improvements. And most important with that was to not let big cost and multi-year complex projects get in the way of taking immediate action to make improvements. We also worked extensively on storefront improvements, such things as exterior paint, awnings, signage, windows where we removed all the stickers and posters so you could see in, standard entrance doors with logo at eye level, simplified hours and contact info at the bottom, and exterior lighting. We updated and revised our sign ordinance in consultation with the borough so it could serve the businesses better and be more streamlined. And we gave out $278,870 through 70 storefront improvement grants to help businesses with making small changes. We also had a public art policy where we did over 7 murals and 2 temporary projects, which brought in over $68,000 of outside funding. During COVID, we relaxed rules for outdoor dining and retail activities and provided $750,000 of direct support to businesses for whatever they needed. A blade sign pilot project finally helped to bring multiple illuminated blade signs to businesses, and we streamlined that process so it was not required to have stamped permitted drawings for everyone. This work resulted in more than $170 million reinvestment since 2016. We raised over $1.3 million of outside money. Volunteers gave 25,338 hours of their time, valued at over $640,000. And Metuchen was named a Great America Main Street Awards semifinalist in September 22. The winners will be announced March 27th, 2023 at the Main Street Now conference in Boston. The bottom line is that for every dollar of borough and special improvement district funding, there's been a return on investment of $104.39. There's many lessons to take away from the experience in Metuchen, but probably the most important one is this. The best way to help businesses is to provide technical and financial assistance and to ease regulatory burdens whenever and wherever possible. So how does all of this relate to the ongoing work of the Historic Preservation Commission? First, I hope we can think of a partnership between the Historic Preservation Commission and the Special Improvement District and what that could and should look and feel like. And maybe we can get examples from other places that have done that well. The CID has the ability to advise, and then businesses and building owners voluntarily comply. That's different from the role of the HPC, which is enabled through the municipal land use law to do your work. Though I'd suggest our advise and comply approach with regulations of the HPC could be particularly effective in bringing about desired results. Regulation is an important part of our entrepreneurial ecosystem that we're seeking to manage, which raises the question of how do we work as a community to create an environment in which businesses can be successful and thrive, as our mission suggests. And lastly, I'll say that making regulations understandable through clear visual design guidelines is crucial. Among the finest that I've seen professionally are from Staunton, Virginia, though there are many similarities between the two communities, and it may be worth exploring those and others further. With that, that's my presentation. Thank you for your attention, and I'm now happy to take questions in the remaining time that's available.
Thank you so much. I have a question about Metuchen and institutions. I don't know Metuchen very well, but you know, here we have the big elephant, which is Princeton University. Does Metuchen have like similar, you know, big corporations or institutions that are kind of influencing the town?
I think 20 of our businesses in Metuchen had net revenues of $1 million or more, though some of those were larger. But institutionally, it was more we were surrounded by institutions of that size. But I will relay a story to you that our mayor there, who was very savvy, was able to tap many of those corporations, but also some of the foundations, including the hospital, to provide significant revenues to support our revitalization efforts in town. I'd also add of the 744,000 square foot that were built, that we had major anchors, including a Whole Foods that located there. And certainly we worked with those major property owners, and that $170 million of investment, while it was a large amount for a town the size of Metuchen, roughly half the size of Princeton, that we did have relationships with some of the leading developers in the state of New Jersey and also national.
Yeah, Tom, you have your hand up.
Well, welcome to Princeton. It's a pleasure to have you here and to be thinking about our concerns. I have a couple of questions that I'd just like to put out there.
Gotcha.
Why has this SID, in your opinion, come together? Number one. Number two, based on your assessment, based on your experience in Metuchen and now your analysis of Princeton, what do you think Princeton needs that we're not having now that the SID will bring us anew? And then I would just, and did I hear you correctly that did you tell us that the return on investment was for every dollar invested in the SID in Metuchen, you earned $104 of return?
Yes.
I'd like to sign up for that venture capital fund.
Excellent. Well, as a public-private partnership, as a nonprofit, that our benefits were really for the businesses, for our partners, and for our stakeholders. So if you wanted to invest in that, technically such an opportunity is not available, though we took great pride in generating some of the greatest returns on investment for every dollar that went into
You'd be doing better than Princeton University Investment Company. So can you tell us what you
comment on that? I only read the papers like everyone else, but I certainly wish them the best. So why do we need a SID?
Yeah,
Yes,
why,
excuse me.
please? And what does Princeton need that you can bring to us, please?
I don't claim to be an expert from the 3 months that I've been here, but one of the things that I do have is an outsider perspective. And frankly, that might be one of the reasons why the board saw it worthwhile to hire someone, with my knowledge, background, and experience. So I'd say just briefly, we could probably go on for hours, and in fact, I'd invite that opportunity at some point. But briefly, I'd say that I think our challenge is searching for the uncommon common ground. Where do our interests align? Where do we really come together? And what I'd suggest to you in my line of work, there's no limit to the amount of revitalization that people want for their town. It's not like you're going to wake up tomorrow and say, we're done making things better, we're just going to stop. But rather, it's this, when we start, we commit ourselves to a process of continuous improvement. And that actually links to your to your second question. I'm sorry, that links to your first question about why is SID, which is that you want an ongoing management entity, basically an ongoing program, which can guide the revitalization. And that program ideally has interests that are represented, including all the stakeholders and the businesses. Further, I'd add, we have a representative from Princeton University on our board. We have a number of businesses and property owners on our board. In fact, we're required for half of our board plus one to be property and business owners by statute. So I think you need a SID to do the things that I outlined in my presentation. I would encourage you to take a closer look at our work plan. I gave a summary of it, but the detailed work plan is available. I'd also be happy to share that with you. And I think the proof is in the pudding, though. So 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, as we provide our reports to stakeholders about the value that's been created, please take a look at those. We'll make a point of sharing it with you. We want to generate results for all the stakeholders, and especially for the businesses and owners which we represent.
Thanks. David, you have your hand up?
Oh, I just wanted to say welcome, Isaac, and that I would agree that Kathy Frazier's design guidelines for Staunton are very, very good. I've used them in the past, and she's just a great spirit for downtowns, and it comes through in her work.
Yes.
So Elizabeth, when we're looking, I forgot about that name when you were asking me, but we might want to see if there's anyone from her firm actually that goes out and does that.
Okay, do you have could provide me address? That would be great.
Yeah, I can get that for you.
I'd recommend reading the guidelines. They're really quite incredible. And it's probably one of the best managed downtowns nationally, too.
I worked there.
Excellent. Good to know. In full
Well,
disclosure.
we are finally putting out an RFP for design guidelines. This has been a request for like the last 5 years. And I think we're finally going to get it. So this is perfect timing.
Well, that's what we call results. So
Yeah.
I guess it was worth coming to the meeting to hear
Yeah,
that.
definitely. Perfect
Excellent.
timing.
Thank you.
Sure. Other questions for Isaac? If not, we just thank you for your time. Thanks for coming by. And, if we run into each other in person now, you've met the commission, and you're always welcome back.
Excellent, excellent. And Chairperson, I have just one quick comment and I left this out of the presentation, but I think it's important. As we move ahead, I think it's really crucial that we celebrate our successes. So I want to suggest when the HPC, when things go really well, or we have a great outcome, and maybe the before and after picture to share of it. Currently, we reach 5,428 people through our database and through our newsletter that goes out each month. And we'd be really happy to discuss ways that we can share your successes with our network and to inform our members about your important work moving forward.
Oh, well, you have to talk to David, because we were just talking about this, and maybe, in fact, David, maybe you want to forward your email to Isaac, the one that you wrote today. Because That's perfect.
Excellent, thank you. And just for the record, my email is my name, Isaac, ISAAC, @princetonbusiness.org.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you.
My
Yeah, we
pleasure.
look forward to working with you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. So I think. What do
Did
we,
anybody
what's that?
Anybody else get the message this morning from Preservation New Jersey? That
No.
they're so, it's scary how skeletal it is it's down to 290 members, and they're basically on their way out. Quite a few of us were involved in that at one time or another. Connie's the one who started. Gang, I'm 20 minutes from home, and I've really got to get there. So I'm going to wish everybody the very most festive Yuletide. And
Hey, Elric, before you
Yeah.
leave, can you touch base on our meeting we went to at the Historic Sites Council for Drumthwacket? Just so they have a little information on it.
sure, but briefly, finally, after about 2.5 years since it was first proposed to us, the notion of adding an 18th century Dutch barn to the grounds at Drumthwacket was approved after a 5-hour Zoom meeting on last Wednesday. And the First Lady of the state is very much behind it with her husband and various other people. We had taken several skeptics and the pretty clueless architect, forgive me, over to see the barn we did for Rockingham, which is very much the same thing. And I hope we prevail in helping with the design on it, but it will be located, not so it's right in the forefront in front of Drumthwacket, more that it'll reflect the really early double house right up on the street, half of which is Dutch and half of which is English. One half of it stood right up where the columns are on the battlefield, and an eyewitness account that we ran on the Recollector was written from it. So it's got a lot of history. And anyway, and it was something we've worked pretty hard on, and it was as Elizabeth can affirm, it was a very long, ponderous 5 hours, and everybody was having a hard time getting in, staying in, and anyway, it was much. We had been advised by Cliff Zink and by various other people that SHPO, which was the stumbling block, would never approve it, and they did. So,
Wow. Well,
very
congratulations.
happy, and we'll keep you informed. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
Be
good
safe.
holiday.
Happy holidays. See you in
Happy holidays.
2023.
Happy New Year.
Happy
New
holidays.
Year.
I'm gonna cut you off, Elric.
Best wishes to everybody.
Thank you. David, did you want to say anything else? Because you have your hand up.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. So I believe other than, we didn't get to cut public comment. Is there anyone in the public who would like to comment on anything?
A few minutes, if anyone would like to speak. Please raise your hand. Who have raising their hand.
Is anyone, any hands raised?
No.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure I cover that. So any other reports or anything other than that? I think that's all our business.
We forgot the master plan.
Oh, goodness. I'm so sorry. What? Oh, I'm very sorry. Okay, master plan discussion. There you go. Okay.
Well,
So-
how do we officially or appropriately participate more? I went to the public open house that Justin hosted And we all were kind of like, ooh, there's not enough preservation being discussed. I did talk to Justin about this, and he explained that that's going to come up in another session or another part of what's being reviewed. And I just felt like, I know in the past we've had a big role. Christine helped us the last couple of times that I've been around for the historic preservation element of the master plan. So I think is how we said it. And I just want to make sure that I understand and everybody else understands what we can be doing and how we advocate for that which is important to this commission.
All right. Well, Justin, do you want to say a few words?
Sure, I'm happy to. So I guess I will start with where we are in the process, and then I could get into what the plan is for the historic preservation element. And then we could start kind of just discussing, ways that you all might be able to benefit the process, with your knowledge. So we've had 5 steering committee meetings already since really kicking this off in about April of last year. Mrs. Satterfield is actually a member of our steering committee alongside 12 other, community members, both the people you might expect, like the mayor and some council members and others that are newer voices. We've also had the economic study. I'm not going to touch on that too much because that had a singular focus of an economic analysis to feed into an economic element of the master plan. But then we had a community visioning study and then that open house that David mentioned. Those were broad kind of community discussions, more about what you like about Princeton, what brought you here, those types of things. So that's why, like David mentioned, we didn't have anything about, historic preservation at that open house, or, the utility element for that matter, or, any of these more kind of technical ones. It was still more of downtown parking, housing, and open space, the kind of big things. So then we will follow up with some more steering committee meetings those are all open to the public. And that steering committee might break out into specific elements or specific groups of elements, and we're working through that plan right now. And then that'll result in another survey and another open house that are element specific. So that's when we'll get into more of, you'll be able to go and talk directly about historic preservation. And then of course this process ends at the planning board, where we'll have draft documents for people to comment on publicly before it is, ultimately, hopefully approved by the planning board as a planning board document. So the historic element, the plan for it, because this is a master plan and the master plan reexamination report, we didn't throw out, everything from the past and start all over. So our consultants are looking at the most recently adopted historic element, which I believe is from 2012 that David mentioned, and that builds on the original plan from 1996. And I believe it might have been amended even a few more times over that. So the consultant and their historic experts are looking at that right now, and they're starting to get pairing that with the public comments just to get us some more specific, information of where we're going to. Right now, in between these two sets of outreach, we're working behind the scenes on the technical things, and that'll include our consultants speaking directly with Elizabeth on, what suggested districts should be added. What, maybe there are some sites in there in the former township that the structure might not be there anymore. That was the reason that it was designated historic. They're also looking into and working with Elizabeth to identify local historic districts, map them in a way, in addition to our existing map, review the process where suggested districts are nominated and moved up, those types of things. And that's something that I need to better inform Elizabeth on how that's happening now that we're moving to that phase. So at that point, once I do give Elizabeth that information, as we're working on where we go in this next phase of the master plan, she'll be able to discuss with you the best way to do it? Is it to have, subcommittees of this group look at specific districts, or maybe subcommittees will, I use Deer Path as an example of an area that probably in 1996 might not have fit the criteria of historic. But now, when I go by it, it certainly is a significant, in my opinion, historic area in town, much in the way that Dodger Stadium, as a mid-century modern baseball stadium, is historic, similar to Fenway Park from 1912. That type of thing. So those are kind of where our next steps lie. I've been going around to boards and commissions and committees and asking them for recommendations to put into the plan, because the historic element is an element of the master plan, and it is more involved, and we have a direct role for the historic officer and the commission. In addition, I haven't, given that kind of role, knowing that we're going to have a more involved process, and this is essentially what it is. And the hope is still that July is when we would have this all wrapped up by. So we're getting closer to that date, but we're still about 50% of the way through the process. There's a lot more work to be done.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, Elizabeth, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. So Justin, I think that you answered one of my questions, which was, what is your timeline? So you're thinking like end of July is when they're going to be finished collecting all the information, but not necessarily coming to some type of draft final. Is that what their timeline is at this point?
The hope was July would be the final and approval. I keep getting warned that things take a while here. So I'm still hoping for that, but if we need more time, this is certainly, important enough. But if we stick to that schedule, then that might mean we'll have some draft documents in May, about May.
Okay. So one of the things that I would recommend is, happy to meet with them before, but definitely come before the full commission to kind of talk with them. And HPC does have a subcommittee already appointed that's actually been in place for a while. And, I believe once they come to the full commission, we can break off and have the subcommittee and myself work with you and the consultants. And then typically they will come back to the full commission, kind of give them updates as they need to. But we're going to go over that subcommittee list in January. That's all getting ready, and, everyone kind of volunteers, I guess is a good word, because there's a lot of subcommittees.
Yeah.
For them, and there are several openings from commission members who have left that needs to be filled in. So, but we do have a master plan subcommittee. So I think that they'll work really great with you and the consultants on that.
And just to let you know, our subcommittee for the master plan has been, it's actually Frida, Roger, and myself. And
look at Frida.
You're like, what?
She's like,
and I took, I volunteered my space to Christine and said, Christine, you would be better off being in that spot than I would. So, yeah, so I think Christine would be a better addition, especially given, my time constraints. I think it would be great to have Christine on that subcommittee. And Christine, you have your hand up, so.
Oh, well, what I was going to say was that I didn't want to jump the gun, and I had mentioned to Elizabeth that I was going through the master plan and marking it up. And she said, well, why don't you hold off until this discussion on Monday? So I'm just telling you what I've done, and I didn't finish it, but that's it. All right, well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, well, and I think that's a great idea too. Like I mentioned, there's quite a list of suggested districts and sites in there. Some of them more involved or more described than others. So if there are ones that stick out where 919 Lawrenceville Road, that got torn down for a 7-Eleven or something like that, that would be very helpful on top of those areas of town that, you know, are more historic now than they were, or considered more now than they were in the past.
Well, and speaking to Clover Lane, I mean, Christine was very involved when we had first proposed that Deer Path Clover Lane become a district. So she's very familiar with that material.
Perfect.
I was just gonna say that, I know there has to be written a section of which talks about the history of not Princeton, but the history of the designation of the historic districts. And it really sort of ends in 1996. And there's been so much that has happened since, and so much of a consolidation. There's been 2 more districts, Prospect and Witherspoon Jackson. And, you know, I think all of that has to be put into place. I never got to the point of looking at the list exactly. So it, you know, it's old. It really is old. I mean, from what I remember, yeah, we did a lot in 96, and then there was another review in 2012. So I think it's been, there's a big hole between, that's 10 years, you know. So.
Right. So it's been 10 years. It's definitely overdue. David, you wanted to say something?
Just to say that in addition to the resources that are here and people identifying them and suggesting them in this process, Justin, our probably our biggest need is financial resources. I'm sure everyone's saying that, but that's part of what, you know, we are have our eyes open all the time about these resources, but we can't get to them just as a committee and a staff person. There needs to be some more, and I'm sure everyone's saying that to you, but we mean it too.
You mean, and you have a whole element. Not too many others can say that. So.
Okay. Thank you.
That's true. Elizabeth, you still have your hand up?
Yes, and Justin, I think that I had asked you this before. Will the consultants also be doing a townwide inventory to help with the update, or are they really coming to HPC to give them feedback, or will it be a combination of both?
What do you mean by townwide inventory?
Well, I
Like a
know that,
complete-
yeah, because I know that when Michael was doing the RFP for it, I said to him, I said, you know, are they going to be able to actually look at townwide, everything that we have as far as suggested districts, and then go beyond that? I mean, I feel like there's so much more that we can look at now because it has been many years.
Yeah, they won't be independently looking, you know, in that realm. But if there are places that are identified, you know, particularly by this group or by the public, they can add to that. So there's no kind of like full, they're going out and you know, either ground truthing or looking through additional documents to find districts or potential districts or you know, historic sites or you know, like the Prospect Ave, when we found out, oh, certain people lived in these houses, they're not doing anything like that as part of the scope of their work.
All right. Well, I definitely think that the subcommittee will be in touch with you. And then, you know, through the early months of 2023, you know, you can get a better sense of timing and dates for the historic preservation element work. So that would be great. Thanks, Justin.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. So is there anything else? If not, I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday and safe, great new year.
Hello.
And we'll be back. Like I said, we approved the later date for January. I think it's
23rd.
Yeah, the 23rd. So we will see you on the 23rd, and everyone be safe.
Yep.
Happy
Likewise.
holidays.
Thank you.
God bless you. all.
Happy
Bye.
holidays.
Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.